Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maximo and I'm here checking out Castlevania, Curse of the Moon. You might be wondering why I'm calling it that. This game is so Castlevania that every time I think of this game, the name just immediately comes up as Castlevania, Curse of the Moon in my brain. It's ridiculous just how much they've duplicated the original formula here. Specifically, from what I've heard online, Castlevania 3, which is actually the only one in the series I haven't gotten around to actually playing in any serious respect yet. So this was kind of a trip, but let's get into it, shall we? There's actually not that much to see out here. You can go to your options and you can reconfigure the entire control scheme, which is really nice actually, including the ability to have it so that up and the attack button will fire off your sub-weapon, which is always nice. So, we might as well just load straight into my game. I have finished it. The game is roughly an hour and a half long on the casual mode. Now, if you play it on... Well, actually, we can get to that shortly, but yeah. It will be a lot longer if you play it on veteran, trust me. I played a few stages on veteran, and then I went and changed the style to casual and just played through the entire game that way. So, we are actually going to load into my game here, because I was actually able to copy it. There is something else that does come up as well. There is the Nightmare mode, which at the very end of the game, and this really isn't a spoiler, but I'll say it anyway, so, you know, skip forward 10 seconds, but at the end of the original run of the game, the main protagonist gets taken over by evil, and the Nightmare mode unlocks, which is basically the same game again, but with slightly harder bosses and more damage overall. At least I think that's what the deal is, so yeah. There's your warning right there as to what you get at the end of the game. There is also apparently a third difficulty mode, or not so much difficulty mode, but mode of gameplay at the end that I haven't gotten to yet, because I assume you have to beat the game on Nightmare, which I'm not going to do, I just don't have the time, but... So, you do actually get the ability to choose your style here, which is veteran and casual, as I said before, and the style is interesting, because if you play on casual, you get infinite lives and nothing knocks you back. Which is actually a really neat little thing. Infinite lives basically means that the game does have in-stage checkpoints, but if you run out of lives, you're all the way back to the beginning of that stage. Just for the purpose of demonstration, I'm going to play on veteran. And despite the fact that this is actually going to lead to the final stage, Cleave the Moon, I'm not actually going to play it, because the game has this weird system called the Curse of the Moon system, which it basically lets you pop back to a previous stage and, well, go through it again, get all the stuff that's there. And that's exactly what I'm going to trigger right now, just so I don't have to show you the entire final stage. So I can show you this little thing here as well, which shows you whether or not you got the pickup on that stage, and it also shows you who you unlocked. Apparently you're capable of going through the game and not getting any of the companions at all, which kind of sounds like suicide because of how the game is, built up and all that, but oh well, let's go and show it off anyway. So this is Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. This is exactly what you think it is. It is literally Castlevania with a different coat of paint on it, and the coat of paint isn't even that different. I mean, if you have played the original Castlevania games, and you look at this and you don't immediately think of the NES Castlevania games, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you clearly can't you clearly can't see for shit. You need to get your eyes checked. This is Castlevania through and through. You have the ability to jump, and you can't change your jump direction after you've pressed the jump button. You have the ability to attack, and the 4 different characters actually have different attacks, but we'll get onto that. And you have sub-weapons. The default sub-weapon for Miriam right now is the dagger, which, yes, it's exactly what you think it is. It's the dagger from the original Castlevania game, and it's just as useless here as it was in that game, except not really, because thankfully in this game you can carry more than one sub-weapon at a time now, which is actually really neat, but we'll get onto that. So the main thing of this game is the ability to swap characters. You have 4 characters. You have the guy who, and I need to pull back to the live area here to explain that, so I apologize for interrupting the game's great music. But if we come over here, that is an amazing looking leotard, except it took me a while to realize that he's actually at the front and that isn't the guy's ass in a leotard. I don't know if that's just me, but if it isn't just me, congratulations, you will never unsee that. But yeah, Zangetsu, who is Mr. Leotard. You have Miriam, who is like 100% more effective in this game than good old Zangetsu, who's the guy you start with. She has a longer attack range, a higher jump, and she can slide under obstacles. You have the useless mage dude, who isn't really useless, but at the same time, you need sub-weapon energy to make any sort of use out of him. And you have Alucard, I should say, as played by David Hayter. They all have their own unique sub-weapons. So, for example, the one that Zangetsu has right now reminds me a lot of, I can't remember what the bloody name of it is, but it's basically the word they made up for Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, which was what Raiden did to his enemies after he just absolutely annihilated them by cutting them open and taking their spines. And, yeah, he's got a really weird name. But yeah, his current sub-weapon right now is basically the Holy Water from Castlevania, except it sticks around and lasts a little longer than usual. But you can swap between all the different characters and use all their different sub-weapons. Miriam's is actually going to be really useful right now because I can hit stuff that's above her, which is awesome! There we go. And everybody has their own different sub-weapons. And you get them via the purple candles. The regular yellow candles are candles that just drop sub-weapon energy. So yeah, if I swap to Miriam, it'll drop one of her sub-weapons, so it just dropped me the dagger, which is wonderful. My main problem with the way they handle sub-weapons in this game is that you don't actually get, like, your old sub-weapon dropped off the side, which is kind of frustrating if I'm being perfectly honest, mainly because of how the game makes it so that you don't know what sub-weapon you're getting until you actually hit the candle, and then you can't go back to the other one if you made a mistake. So if you end up picking up the sub-weapon you don't want, it really becomes a pain in the ass. Like, for example, Miriam's sub-weapon, that's the giant axe that literally kills everything you hit it with. Incredibly useful little feature. Unfortunately, it is very easy to lose to get back with the crappy daggers. Shit. Just throw some daggers and take him out from long range, because why not? And that is majorly frustrating, because even back, well, I mean, it was a thing back in the original Castlevanias, but by Dracula X, they figured out that it's a lot more fair to drop your old sub-weapon by the side and let you pick it up again. And that makes it just a little bit harder to play this game than you might imagine, because keeping your sub-weapons that you want can be surprisingly difficult. Yes, this game does have hidden stakes in the walls. It does also have, funnily enough, just regular old hearts. And hearts in this game don't actually control your sub-weapon energy, they actually give you health back, which is odd, but I'll take it. So yeah, I'll go over the characters later. So there is a couple more things to talk about in this game, mainly that... Oh, great, right. So I need to swap to the old wizard guy here, because I'm pretty sure... Oh dear. Right. You can fucking die. Thank you. Shit! I didn't hit the... Didn't hit him with the right thing. Yeah, as you can see, I can't pick up her sub-weapon. Right. So there is actually another way over this. I'm going to demonstrate it, because Mr. David Hayter over here doesn't actually get any other sub-weapon except his bat form, but of course you get to just fly right over dudes with bat form, and if you hit a candle with that, if you hit the purple candles, you'll just get sub-weapon energy. It's very useful. So yeah, that's the general idea of the game. There are a couple of other things that I would like to go over that are actually surprisingly clever, like for example, the fact that the game actively points out to you... Oh Jesus, I hate these things. The fact that the game actively points out to you what, fuck it, I'm just gonna fly through the rest of this if I can, just to try and save as much life as possible. There we go. So yeah, as I was saying. See those little dudes there? Perfect time for the example, by the way. These dudes will actually point you in the shortest possible direction. So, say you want to get through a level as quickly as possible. You go with that dude, and you go with that dude's advice, and you die. You go with that dude's advice, and it'll send you on the shortest possible path through the level. And that is very useful, because this game can be surprisingly difficult. There we go. I'm almost about to die with bloody Zangetsu as well, and everybody else isn't doing particularly great, but I don't think I've got a choice in the matter, unfortunately. I just have to keep moving on. But yeah, yeah, that's actually a really clever little thing they got going on there. Let's see if I can get over there without my... Oh no, I made it. Barely, but I made it. Yeah, it's a really clever idea. However, some of the shortcuts are restricted. So, you might need, for example, Alucard. You saw that I needed... not Alucard, but you get the general idea. I need to start calling him, like, David Hayter's Alucard. That's what I said before. So yeah, David Hayter's Alucard can actually go through that shortcut, but if I didn't have David Hayter alive right now, I wouldn't have been able to go through that shortcut, and I would have had to take the long way around. So basically, it's punishment for not keeping your dudes alive, which is actually a really clever system for encouraging you to keep all 4 of your dudes alive. You can swap between them at any time using the shoulder buttons as well, so if someone has low health, you can just simply work with someone else. If you lose a dude just out in the middle of the open, unfortunately, it won't let you swap to another dude. So if, say, you saw that when Miriam died, it threw me back to the previous checkpoint with all my dudes in the state they were in. So yeah, now I have to go through the entire level without her. Obviously, I can, like, you know, go through the entire stage and finish the entire stage without a character, but in cases like this, where there's a special power-up item up there, I think that one gives me more weapon energy. You can see my weapon energy in the top right and how it takes sub-weapon energy to use it all. But yeah, you can see that in the top right there. I can't get to that. I can't get to that without bringing Miriam back alive. So I'm kind of screwed on that front, and I basically have to come back with Curse of the Moon and hopefully get it right next time. Which sucks in many ways, but at the same time, it's also, again, a really clever way to encourage you to keep your characters alive, because obviously, if you want to get through on the shortest route possible, you're going to need to... Wow, this guy's going to be a dick, isn't he? Oh, almost had him. Fucking bastard. Right. Now I have to go through with the old man. It was completely useless. Except for when he gets some really cool spells, like this one. Which can actually, like, freeze people and shit. It's kind of cool. But yeah, he needs a lot of weapon energy to work, but I'll get onto all the specific characters shortly. Fuck you. Right, so, as I was saying... Yeah, the entire level design side of this game is pretty great. I mean, having all the shortcuts be locked off if you don't have the right dude available, having the special pickups and all that, it's all good. It all works great, and it absolutely does feel like Castlevania. One of the major... Well, it's not even a major thing, honestly. One of the really, really minor things about this game's level design that I'm not a 100% fan of is the just... how do I put this? One of the major things I feel that I don't exactly enjoy about this game's level design is the fact that everything feels really big for some reason. Now, if you compare it to something like the original Castlevania, that game's sense of scale was on point. It had just the right size for everything to make it all feel intimidating without making it all feel too big. This game kind of feels too big in some stages. There are some places where you'll feel like the game is just making it so that it's extremely big for no discernible reason. One example of this, at least from my point of view, is the third stage, which is set inside like a desert catacomb or something like that. It feels way bigger than it has any right to be, and I'm not entirely sure why it does. And some stages like this one are actually pretty good about it and don't really make it that much of a deal, in my opinion. I'm just saying that it's just a minor thing with all of the different characters and all that. It just with the size of the characters and the size of the enemies, the entire level just feels a bit too big for some reason. And a couple of stages are considered a little bit of a problem with this. So you got your 4 different characters, and they are all significantly different. Zangetsu is a guy that they expect you to beat the entire game with by himself, which is, I believe, the 3rd mode that you'll unlock, but that's just an educated guess, judging by what I've read on the trophy list. And he is entirely capable, but he's honestly the dullest character in the entire game just because of that. He's got a fair amount of capability, and if you want to beat the entire game with him, good luck, but it is possible. I am fully I am fully cognizant of that. I can understand that very easily. The second character is Miriam, who somehow manages to be better than pretty much every other character in the game in just general capability, and I'm not entirely sure why. She's got better jumps, she moves a bit quicker, she's got a longer range. It's just so odd. I'm not entirely sure what the deal is with that. But she is the best character in the game, and I can't imagine going without her sometimes because Zangetsu's default attack range is just a little bit disappointing. Then you've got Mr. Archmage Wizardman, who's actually really useful if you've got the sub-weapon energy to back him up. All his sub-weapons are inhumanly powerful. Like, the one he's got equipped right now is literally a shield that'll block all projectiles and most one-hit kill enemies. It's insane. You can just stand right up next to a dude. Hell, you can fire off his sub-weapon, and then you can swap to another character and just use them instead. Like, that works. That actually works. I'm not entirely sure why, but it does. Fuck. Right, I screwed that up. And I'm gonna screw this up too. There we go. Now, I actually had a more ranged sub-weapon when I was fighting these guys before, so it was a little bit easier for me to actually get attacks in. Alright, so yeah. Bosses in this game. Really quite impressive, if I'm being completely honest with you. They look great and they sound great. However, the bosses themselves are a little bit... How do I say this? Well, they aren't bad bosses. They are quite enjoyable. They've all got discernible rhythms and they've all got a fair amount of difficulty to them. But if I'm being honest, your first run through the games will be quite disappointing. Mainly because the bosses in these modes, at the very least, are quite average. Like, the movements and just like the general attack patterns respectively, they're all a bit just underwhelming the first time through, which is surprising considering that the game's got a lot of really interesting ideas for bosses, but it just can't seem to like actually make some interesting attack patterns for them. Personally, the only boss I felt matched up to any boss in a previous Castlevania game was the final boss, the Moon. Or the Moon Spirit, or whatever. But generally, I'm not claiming to be a particularly skilled gamer, but saying that I thought that these... Saying that I thought that these bosses were all surprisingly easy is really weird, considering that I never beat... Bloody Death in Dracula X. Dracula X Chronicles, not even Dracula X, just Dracula X Chronicles, which is notably easier than the original game. Considering that I was never able to actually get past Death, saying that I found all these bosses to be surprisingly easy is kind of disappointing. As I said before, their attack patterns are improved later on when you unlock the Nightmare mode, but this is surprisingly easy. Like, I'm not entirely sure what they were going for here, and I think that having the Nightmare mode bosses in the regular game wouldn't have been too much of a big deal. And what I'm going to do is, now that we've finished this stage here, without much difficulty whatsoever, I'm going to pop out to my Nightmare game, and we're going to play through stage 2 in Nightmare mode, just so it's a little... just so I don't have to go too far into the game to demonstrate it, and that I can show a Nightmare mode boss, something I haven't fought before. But yeah, I only lost 1 life during that, and I didn't even lose any life during the bosses, which is weird. The game is... well, I don't want to call it easy. Some of the stage layouts can be absolutely maddening, difficulty-wise, but I just want to say that the bosses might give you a... the bosses might not give you enough trouble than you might think is appropriate for this sort of thing. But, yeah, let's quit Sunder the Night for now, and we'll go back and we'll play another stage on Nightmare mode. The game does save after every stage, so you are welcome to just quit there and go back and come back later. So let's go and hop into Nightmare mode on Veteran. I do believe this does cause you to take more damage, as well as, you know, the bosses being harder, but I'm not 100% sure on that, but we'll just have a go anyway and see how I do. Now, I don't want you to think that this game is terrible because of that, because the game is actually still really good. It feels like playing a Castlevania game that they dug out from the depths of time. Maybe like a Castlevania game before the first Castlevania game, like one they made as a prototype or something like that, because it really does feel like a Castlevania game lost to time, and that is actually really impressive. It looks the part, it sounds the part, it is the part. And the best part of looking and sounding the part is that the game is 32 megabytes. So it will fit on any memory card, like without question. So it is still really enjoyable as well. It has asshole enemy setups. It has asshole bosses from time to time. It is just generally capable at being a Castlevania game overall. And I did enjoy my run-through of it. I have absolutely enjoyed... Fuck me, I got the daggers again. Probably my fault for standing so close to the candle, but yeah. It does feel like a Castlevania game, and a really good one to boot. It's just... yeah, just slightly too easy for my personal taste, which is really freaking weird to say about a Castlevania game. That's my major issue with it. And sure, I could play through the entire game again on Veteran and, like, really feel the difficulty there. There are definitely one or two spots where they definitely abuse that sort of, thing in order to get you to give up right there and then, but still, just as an overall thing, game's pretty easy. And that's really my only major issue with it. There were a couple of other, like, technical faults that I had, like, it would often take the main menu, like, 10 seconds to realize that I was actually pushing buttons. But they actually fixed that in the patch, so, you know, no harm, no foul. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about it. It is a great little game, but more than that, it's a great piece of intentions. Now, I know that sounds a little bit weird, but let me explain myself. So, for anyone who's been following this game, you'll know that basically the director behind the old Metroidvania Castlevania games, Mr. Koji Igarashi himself, also known as Iga, is currently working on a Kickstarter project called Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. There we go. And Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is basically just a massive callback to his old Metroidvania-style Castlevania games. This was actually a Kickstarter stretch goal, where if they made enough money, they were going to make this, like, little bonus game just as a thing and send it to people who backed the Kickstarter beyond a certain point. And, well, that's exactly what they did. And considering that he's currently... It's even got, like, the flicker. Like, look at that. When there are too many sprites on top of each other, they have simulated the flicker that would happen in this sort of game when that many sprites were on top of each other. It's bloody insane, the amount of attention to detail that's going on here. Alright, fuck these things. Unfortunately, I can't stay in bat mode while I'm being damaged. So I'll just need to rely on my reflexes and skills with Mr. Batman, Mr. David Hayter's Alucard, and I made it! I fucking made it! Holy shit, I actually did something good for once. But yeah, as I was saying, save intentions. So, since they're making that, people are not worried about this or anything, but I've just had it in the back of my head, like, are they really going to make it in exactly the same way as the old games were? So when they decided that they were going to make this, and they said it was going to be like old Castlevania style, and it came out exactly like they said it would, old Castlevania style, it gave me a lot more confidence in Bloodstained in general, just because since they have made this game, it means that they have shown off that they are willing to not only respect the properties that they are trying to emulate, but they're going to do it with as much accuracy as they possibly can, and I fucked that up massively. Jesus, I really should use Alucard for this, mainly because I know that I'm actually capable of, like, hitting aerial targets with him. So yeah, let's try that with Alucard properly this time. Unfortunately, he's not got much health, but what I do have is plenty of lives, because you get extra lives when you get a certain amount of points. Screw it, let's take the short way. So, yeah, basically, since they have maintained, like, since they've maintained this game so closely to the original Bloodstained, to the original Castlevania formula, I've got nothing but confidence in Bloodstained now. As for whether the port on Vita specifically will turn out to be, like, any good, well, that's a question that's still left to be answered, but at the same time, though, it's still really encouraging to see this game turn out like this. Because it means that they really are focused and dedicated on making the game the way we remember. And that is the most encouraging thing about this whole thing. It's not that it came out to be a good game, or that, you know, it's a good game, or that it looks and sounds the part. It feels the part, and that shows dedication to the cause, which is a weird thing to say, but you get what I'm trying to say, right? They are focused on making this as much like the old games as possible, to the point where they literally made went and made a bloody Castlevania old school game to show that they know what they're talking about, and they're more than happy to try and actually get it right. And the only thing I have to say to that is yes, and more please. That's all I've got. Like, seriously. More of this shizzle. So this is the boss, and I'm going to die, but at the same time, we'll come back with all 3 characters and we can give the boss a proper shot, which is nice. Flame on! And die. Just immediately. No chance. Alright. Let's give this a proper shot this time. That knockback really does up the difficulty of the game a bit. Well, I have to start all the way back from here? Okay. Sure. Really should try and save my actual health for the boss fight. Oh, for fuck's sake, just die already! Seriously? God, that guy took like 4 hits, what the hell? Please tell me that one of these was a heart. Oh boy, this is going to suck. Alright. Just wait for him to throw out his ice again. Strangely enough, this level doesn't have ice physics, but there is another level that actually does. It's weird and strange and silly and all of those other things. Slide under, slide back, there we go. Heart, please. God damn it. Eat bats, there we go. Yeah, you definitely need that heart. Miriam? I don't want to throw away that axe, so let's just get some extra weapon sub-energy and try and make our way through without getting completely destroyed by this bat, because these bats can be absolute dicks. Fire shield is probably okay for Mr. Wizard, so let's do this. Mostly full health, and yeah, we should be alright. Maybe. I haven't actually seen the nightmare version of this boss, so there still might be an attack that catches me off guard. I'll stand about here, duck. Bollocks. Right, I forgot about those. And there's Mr. Turtle himself. And here comes the... oh yeah, these things, right. Wizard! Protect me from these things. Now that's why the wizard is useful when you have sub-weapon energy. And I'll just fire out some bats here. Bollocks. And now I have to go through the boss again. But with 2 characters, because fuck. Right. Continuing on. Two characters with, like, no health. Honestly, at this point, this is usually when I just say fuck it and lose the lives. And just, like, take the loss and just, you know, come back with full health. Because I don't stand a bloody chance at this point. Run towards her and duck. Wow, I really screwed up the timing on the duck there, didn't I? Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna just get myself killed, and I'll cut back with another attempt at the boss, hopefully a little bit more competent this time. Alright, let's try this again. First thing I want to do is run all the way over to the right, so that I'm as close as possible to start throwing out my attacks. Yeah, I screwed that jump up. I always screw that jump up. Wow, that was a massive set of failures on my part. Protect me, wizard. See, all that extra little bit of bonus damage there? Super useful. Right, now this is where I duck, right? Yep, and immediately get... Now I swap to her and fuck up the jump miserably. Okay. Flame on to protect myself and immediately get crushed. Flame on again. And run away. Flame on again because I've got the sub-weapon energy. Fuck you. Gotcha! Actually got the jump, and right. I'll stick with the wizard because he's actually got the health to survive a couple of attacks. And then... Yes! Gotcha! Here comes the last hurrah, which... As far as I'm aware, doesn't actually kill you, but I'm not entirely sure I want to... Yeah, I'm good. Okay, yeah, I got her. I got her pretty good. So, that was a look at Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, and it's a good Castlevania game. In some places it's a little easy, and there are a couple of other minor nitpicks I've gone over throughout this entire video, but... Other than that, it's still a really good Castlevania, retro Castlevania style game, excuse me, and I would fully recommend it to anyone looking for this sort of experience. And, you know, with the casual mode and all that, it's probably a pretty good one to pick up if you think the other ones are just a little bit too hard, and you need at least a little bit of practice with something that's not going to bend you over its knee and spank you repeatedly. So, yeah, it's $10, and it's well worth that price. And hopefully Bloodstained Ritual of the Night comes out and it's actually pretty good. So there you go. This has been Blue Maxima, and I will see you all next time.